Good evening and salutations, my GH fans. I want to sit there and talk about the conversation between Porsha and Stella. And the reason why I want to sit there and talk about this is because the direction that they took this conversation seemed like it, in some ways, came out of left field. When Porsha talks about Esme and her targeting Trina specifically, and says that it had something to do with her skin color. And I'm just like, I mean, granted, she didn't sit there and say that, like, that was the definite, like, that's definitely why she did it. But it just seemed like it came out of nowhere, and it almost in a lot of ways didn't make a lot of sense because she even said that when she first got to town, she targeted Jocelyn the hardest. So why? I know that she said that she, made sure that, when she got into this legal trouble, that she was like, oh, because of her skin color, she'll have a little bit more difficulties with the law and stuff like that, or something along the lines she was saying. But my point is, it's like, she backtracked what she said, but this seemed like this was more of a conversation about people of color, women of color being treated unfairly by the justice system. And while I don't disagree with that, I feel like they just see. It's hard for me to sit there and say that this conversation was unnecessary because it's definitely necessary, but it came out of nowhere because Esme didn't target her because of her skin color. This had a lot to do with Spencer and all of that stuff. This is teenage drama turned up to 11. So this whole talk about Porsha saying that, she kept her sheltered and, she didn't prepare for the harsh realities of life, especially being a woman of color, dealing, in this world and everything like that. And I felt like this conversation was out of place because none of the stuff that came before it had anything to do with color. So bringing this up just randomly just seemed like it was like, what? Where did that come from? Now I understand Porsha, her daughter's on trial. She feel like in some sort of ways that she kind of failed her as far as raising her, and I get that sense. But the throwing race in it just seemed like it was out of nowhere. It really seemed like it was out of nowhere. This wasn't like the last conversation when she had with Jordan, as far as Liz coming up there and, getting up in Jordan's face about the way that they treated Cam, because that I can understand them going into a racial conversation. This was just, yeah. So, that happened, in the beginning. Josh wants to sit there and talk about the ace, the Spencer being her alibi. But one second. So yeah, Josh wants to sit there and tell Porsha about the fact that she has an alibi. But you know, Trina, when they walk in and Porsha's like, oh, what are y'all talking about? Um, Trina makes up some sort of lie and kind of diverts the conversation. And at some point, they get outside, and Josh is like, "No, listen. When it gets really bad, we got to sit there and say something." And Trina, even admits like, "Yo, listen. There's a good chance that I can say that, and it still may not save me, but it would definitely sit there and send him to jail." And I totally agree with that because let's be honest. Even if she comes out and say, "Well, I was with Spencer the whole time while he was, all playing hooky when he should have been in jail," And they can just sit there and be like, yeah, there's this thing called pre-record. Like, that's still a thing. So I don't understand why Josh is pushing so hard towards that. And she doesn't even know if it can actually work. And aren't they like somewhat family at this point? Like, I get that Spencer has been a really crappy friend to say the least. But you don't even know if it can actually benefit Trina, and you're just that willing to sit there and throw Spencer under the bus. Just seems like, what? So Curtis and Marshall runs into Ava, and I think one of them, I can't remember which one, was like, "Hey, we need your help, involves Trina." And right off the bat, Ava was like, "All right, yeah, whatever you need." So they tell her about the plan a little bit, what they plan on doing, and she does actually go to the island. Now, I think the guy's name is Paul, but I'm not really too sure. He goes there to more or less hit up Esme for money. He's like, listen, we gotta sit there and talk. And Esme's like, hey, listen, I can just call the cops. And the guy's like, all right, do it, because I'm pretty sure they're gonna care about more what I have to say than what you have to say. So he's like, yo, listen, I want some money. I want that money fast. And Esme's like, listen, I don't have anything on hand, I can hit you up or whatever. So I guess they set up some sort of meeting time. And Ava is outside, and I guess she's not there trying to overhear what's going on. But she gets a phone call, and Esme is able to sit there and I guess sneak this guy out of another part of Windermere. Because Marshall and Curtis are like, yo, listen, what's going on? Like, he's not back yet. And of course, they get a call from Ava, and they're saying there's more than one way to get off of Spoon Island. So also, Smith, they're telling them towards the end that she felt like she heard something, but she didn't see it, so she couldn't sit there and confirm it. So right off the bat, they were right back to square one. Now they did have this conversation about mental health, and um, Marshall Smith, they're talking about a friend that they said at back in the day, they said that he was touched or whatever, and I guess a lot of people knew him. He did a lot of people's haircuts, whatever, for free. And I guess the symptoms or whatever he was dealing with got really bad, and after a while, people just didn't want to rock with him. So I guess in some sort of weird way that him getting arrested, him getting diagnosed, in a lot of ways saved his life. So they talked about that. It was nothing really too, as far as Trina's storyline go. I felt like this was another conversation as opposed to about race. This is about mental health. So I guess you can kind of take it for whatever it is. So while Olivia's not there arguing with Nina, because Nina's not there, I guess she's trying to ask staff, like, what's going on, what's the runaround, and, just to kind of get herself familiar with, the day to day stuff. Olivia's like, yo, what are you sitting there doing questioning my staff? I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's half of her hotel as well. But she's ride or die with Carly, so she starts going at her, talking about, oh, I'm gonna get my lawyers, and you're never gonna sit there and take her place, and this, that, and the third. And I mean, as weird as this sounds, because I don't like Nina, this whole, oh, you're never gonna sit there and take her place and have to, have my loyalty and stuff like that. It's like she's not asking for any of that. She's not asking for any of that. So I don't understand where you're going with this. But the one thing that she did ask was, she was like, let me and Ned buy your half of the hotel. And that's when Nina's like, no. And how Sonny overhears that, and Sonny's like, yeah, I want to know why you're not selling it for her. So they go back and forth a little bit more. Olivia leaves. And Sonny says something along the lines of, you act like, because there's one point where I think Nina turns towards Sonny. It's like, oh, are you just going to let her stand there and say this to me or whatever? And then after Olivia left, Sonny was like, what did you expect to happen? Like, what did you think was going to happen when, your first day and, your sus motives and stuff like that? How did you think this was going to go down? So he starts to trying to look at things from Carly's side. And Nina gets upset with him because he's like, you're supposed to be having my back. And I think she said something along the lines of what Carly said when Carly was um, having an issue with him when he first came back. As far as what did she say? She felt like there was more than two people in a relationship. And I guess just because Sonny started to, I guess, sympathize with Carly and what she's going through and talking about from her side, Nina didn't like that. Nina was like, "Oh well, I'm actually starting to agree with Carly. It, this whole thing is a mess." And um, I'm not a big fan of Nina. I'm trying to see a little bit from her point of view, but even when Sonny's starting to call you out, you know there's a bit of issues right there. Now, I feel like this whole I'm trying not to be a negative Nancy when it comes towards Carly, because I've already voiced my opinions as far as this is on Carly. Like at the end of the day, she did this to herself, and she has to sit there and suffer the consequences. Now Drew came in to sit there and help her pack because I feel like in a lot of ways they kind of drew it out longer than it needed to be. And I get it. There's a lot of Carly fans, and there's people are going to be upset about Carly losing the Metro Court. I'm not really one of them, so I kind of felt like it was just going on a little bit too long. Now Drew was there; he was sitting there being supportive, and once again he was like, "Yo, listen, you need to sit there and take her off there." But at the end of the day, Carly was like, "Yo, listen, I don't want to own you. I got myself into this mess, and I'm gonna get myself out of it, or just take the L and move on." So they go through photos and um, things of that nature. And towards the end, she gets her box and stuff like that. And she's in a lobby. And Sonny was like, "Yo, Carly, you're right." And Nina just has that scowl look on her face like how dare you sit there and question how she's feeling? Like, I'm just like, I don't really. All he did was ask, how is she doing? And Carly's like, "Oh, I'm fine. I got my family." And she walks off, and it's just like I know a lot of people are getting Sunny smoke. I gave Sunny smoke, but I'm sitting there trying to look at it from Sunny's side, and I just feel like no matter what he does in these situations, he can't win. He can't win. Somebody's always going to be upset with him. Um, if Sunny sympathizes with Carly, you're taking Nina's side, or you're taking somebody else's side, or you're not sitting there protecting your kids, or you're not sitting there looking. So many different things is going on, and it just sucks to be in that position. Now, to be fair, he did put himself in that position, so I can't sit there and be like, "Bro, what do you want me to do?" Now, I'm not gonna lie, there was a pretty funny and interesting exchange when Ava did come into the room to talk to Esme, who was sitting there painting her nails on the furniture and everything. And I can't exactly remember what she said verbatim as far as Esme, but Esme was like, "Hey, listen, whenever I sit there and use your stuff, I make sure that I keep it in good condition. You never even know that I used it," or something like that she said. And I just remember her saying that, and I'm just like, and Ava was like, "What do you mean by that? Like, what do you mean that you're using my stuff without me knowing about it? Like, what do you mean by that?" So Ezra was like, "Oh no, I just kind of talking out of turn or whatever," and they get back into it. And long story short, at this point, Ava tries to bribe Esme to sit there and tell the truth. But Esme is all like, "You know what? I do got to talk something else about Sonny and Carly. I mean, Sonny and Nina." But bottom line, Ava was like, "Well, I'll give you sit there and free room and board and money and stuff like that. All you gotta sit there and do is tell the truth." But of course, Esme's not just sticking to the story, sticking to her lie. "Oh, I didn't do anything, and you're not gonna get me to admit something I didn't do, and I have a family here, and I'm not leaving it." And at some point, Nicholas and You know what? This is gonna be a bit disjointed, but I gotta sit there and talk. Because there's something else that happened with Sonny and Nina when after Olivia left. Sonny was like, "Why didn't you? Why are you not gonna let Olivia buy the hotel?" And Nina was like something along the lines of um, something about power. And at first, I was like, I don't understand where you're going with this, but what she said was, I want to sit there and one day leave this for Wiley. And I'm just like, what? Like, that literally makes no sense. Do you understand how many family members that Wiley has that is rich, that is going to sit there and leave him something when he grows older? For her to even come out her mouth and say, oh, well, I'm sitting there having this hotel because I want to leave it for Wiley. It's like, what? I don't even. I'm pretty sure Sonny didn't even buy that, and Sonny has been buying a lot of stuff that Nina has been selling. But even that one was just like, really? Again, I know it's a bit disjointed with that, but that was something that I wrote down, and I actually had to put a WTF because I was like, no, I gotta sit there and talk about that. Now at some point, Nicholas and Spencer come into the room, kind of break up a little bit of an argument. And of course, at this point, I guess Spencer's going to sit there and act his revenge or his plan or whatever the hell it's called. Um, so he's talking about, I got a surprise for you or something along those lines. And, um, Nicholas like, hey, listen, the next time you get into it with Esme, let me be like a bumper, like a go in between or something along those lines that he said. And then he leaves. Yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. So I remember when Valentine said that he has a plan to sit there and neutralize Laura, and by the previews, I know it has something to do with Laura's mother. I'm sitting there wondering what happened. Was it food poisoning? Did she get stabbed? Did she get mugged? Did she get attacked? No, her house burned down, but everyone was fine though. Just the house burned down. I'm sitting there thinking, now I know that fatherhood has softened him a bit, and I remember him sitting there saying, "Well, I got a plan to sit there and neutralize Laura," but all you did was burn down her mother's house, and she has to leave town for a couple of days. That's that's not a fix. That's not even close to a fix. That's literally buying time. Okay, I had to sit there and talk about that one because even I was just like, "What?" Anyway, throughout most of this, Laura's not there trying to talk herself out of it, talking about, oh, I gotta be there for Nicholas and Spencer, and to make sure that Victor's influence don't get upon them. And I'm like, at some point, I get that you want to sit there and try to save everyone and protect everyone, but for the most part, Nicholas and Spencer are damn near grown ass adults. You can only do so much to sit there and swear their opinions from Victor. Um, So he's talking about all the stuff she has to do. Oh, I got to sit there and be for Liz. I got to sit there and do this. I got to do that. And Kevin's like, no, you got to go. But with that being said, Kevin agreed to stay, to look up to the boys, to keep Esme in line because apparently Kevin has some sort of influence, which I don't see, but okay. So he agrees to stay. Anyway, I feel like that's about it for the most part, or at least the important stuff. Or the most important stuff. And with that being said, I'm going to go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I will see you in the next video. Have a great, safe weekend, and